think I'm still trying to figure it out. Um, yeah, so the folks in my cohort graduated at the beginning of last calendar year. So it's been a minute. And I had never heard that as a framing before. Like I didn't know really. I knew, but I didn't have a frame to understand the distinction between self and parts. Um, and I think what's kind of interesting in responding to this question, I feel like I've been more in self over the last year plus as a result of the work of really committing to my own liberation. But what's also true is my self-awareness of my parts has also increased. And so I feel like my conscious mind is much more focusing on parts. Like throughout my day-to-day, I'm just aware of their presence. But that's also been a place to practice a lot of self-compassion and be like, oh, I see you. And now I know you're there. I know you have a role to play. Um, and I have a role to play in relation to you. So yeah, but I feel like now that I have this as a frame, it feels like life work, right? Like the tending of relationship to these aspects of ourselves. It feels like a tool that I just got it in my toolbox now. And yeah, and it's a relationship that I care deeply about. Like there's work to be done, and it's like it's helping me see where the work needs to happen, right? Is like what are the parts that are needing that attention.
Yeah. That resonates deeply. I feel like I was struggling with the question, and then you just opened it up because I just feel like my relationship to self, I feel like I have a connection every day, every morning. I'm aware, and I know when I'm not in alignment, my parts show up really loudly and remind me that I need to get back in alignment. So when they're really loud, I'm like, oh, something's up. And so I have to make that connection back so that they can kind of guide me, even though it's sometimes they can be a little, harsh. They can be really harsh. And then I don't want to go there. But I know that there's a gift when I just allow myself to listen. And then it just reminds me of who I am and the strength and the beauty and the boldness that sometimes the parts are like, no, you didn't, no, you're not, no. And like, and but when they bring me back to center and home, I'm like, no, it's okay. Like we can go there. I'm going to listen to what you have to say. And I love you for that. And, it's okay. We're good. But we're goddesses. We're goddesses. Like, let me remind you of who we are. And then, then I feel home. So, yeah.
I love that so much. Yeah, identifying with both of you deeply. I think the first thing that came to mind was it's a love fest. But I had to arrive there, right? Because, before CHJL, I was all over the place, and didn't have any awareness about why Robin was feeling the way she was feeling one day versus another. And I think what the program did for me was actually started to frame that I can show up in different multitudes. And all of that is in the name of love, even if it doesn't feel so good, And so definitely resonate with kind of continuing to be on this sort of pendulum swing between self and parts, but also the privilege of the awareness around if I wake up and I'm like, whew, I'm ready to go. Self energy, here we go. We got it with my parts in me, versus when I wake up and I'm like, whew, oh my gosh, disappointment is just really, rearing its ugly head right now. But I would say the gift of having the both and of those is that I've been able to do some significant healing, not only within myself, but with beloveds in my orbit in ways that have been really profound, especially kind of coupled with the coaching. And that's been a real just eye opener for me of the power of knowing self, knowing parts, loving all of them, and recognizing that it'll be a lifelong journey to liberation. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that last part, especially about it being a lifelong journey, it's similar to what you were saying, Hillary. And thank you for the reminder that it's been a year. It's been over a year since our cohort experience ended.
Yeah.
Because I think it helps me understand and have compassion for the fact that my relationship with self is very distant. It's like it feels a little bit like the homie that I graduated with, that we were like inseparable, at graduation, and then like now we barely talk. But there's still a lot of love there. And I think it has to do with the fact that what's coming up for me is like that there's that quote that I think is attributed to Bruce Lee that's like, I don't fear the man who knows 10,000 kicks. I fear the man who's done one kick 10,000 times, And the CHJL program was like doing one kick 10,000 times, right? Like it gave you this space where you're, multiple times a week, you're being called to drop into self, right? And so for the first time in my life, I had this framing of like, there's a thing that you have access to. It's your highest self. Here's how you go there. There's how you come closer to it. And we're going to practice going there over and over and over again. So a year ago, like ask me about self, and I'm just like, oh, it's right over here. Like, let me drop in right now. Like, don't give me a minute, I can go right now. And then being outside of that space, it's like, and everything that's going on in the world, like so much has created distance from the practice of dropping into self. And so, but yeah, more recently, even before arriving in this space, something was telling me like, that is the most important thing that you can be doing right now. I think Damon used to say like, the answer is always to be more in self, in any situation. And I think something was calling me back to that. And so yes, I'm getting back in touch with her. And this space, even this conversation, is really helping with that. Yeah. But I'm curious about I don't remember the question. I'm curious about how folks would describe like being in self, like who you are in self. I'm going to take a minute with that.
Yeah. There's this funny reflection that it feels very alive for me today because of like playing a role yesterday as MC in this space. And there's something for me around like, I don't know that I always recognize when I'm in self to myself. And sometimes I get information about being in self from outside of me. Right. So there's something where when I'm in self, I can feel some of the alignment, but I think sometimes my nervous system blocks me from really being able to like sink into that. But when somebody else will say, like, something you did made me feel seen, or I felt, ease, or I feel connected to my calling. Like, I'm like, that's exactly what I hope for. That's my prayer, is that like that is the impact I'm having. And so I think I'm in this place, maybe circling back a little bit to the previous question, but this idea of like learning how to claim self, being more unapologetic, because I think for me, being in self requires space taking that I was not like raised to take up space. And on the daily, there are places that are like, no, 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 get smaller, and that's in like intimate partner relationships. It's in like, larger, like, in my professional work and organizational spaces. So it's like, yeah, like how to really be in the practice of reclaiming and tuning in and noticing myself in a way like that. Again, it's a growing edge. I'm curious, like, because like I loved Robin, like when you're like, when I wake up in like in self, and it made me think about that, and I was like, oh, I think I know what that feels like. But in real time, I'm not sure I was like actually allowing that to be my truth. Like, look at me right now. Like, look at me being to scale, or what, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. What's coming up for me is I think initially I was sort of juxtaposing self and like positivity. And what I learned over time was that being in self doesn't always necessarily mean I'm feeling good in relationship.
Yeah, that's so important.
Yes.
And so, being in self for me is being able to kind of show up with a knowing that, my parts are alive right now. We're, in this conversation, we're in this argument, we're in this whatever together. I also can feel the parts of the other coming in too. And how do I approach this container that I'm in with the most love, the most welcoming, the most kind of, in my highest self, whatever that means at the time. And also knowing if it's too much to be able to say, this is not the time that I can be the best I can be in this situation with you. Why don't we find another time to come back in, And so really trying to embrace the fact that self-energy can be a multitude of things again, versus it being this kind of like superwoman situation, which I do kind of like to wear. It's another part, likely. My little cape on in many ways, but, having compassion for the fact that self-energy is that sort of reaching of higher self to be able to welcome all of that into relationship. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. I also resonated with when you were talking about like waking up in the morning and feeling it, right? And also this idea that sometimes you don't in the moment realize that it's happening. So definitely like what I'm hearing from both of you is this like flow state almost, and that's how I would describe it for myself. It looks like how I am with my nibblings, like when the easiest visual for me to access in terms of me being in self is, when I'm with, my nieces and nephews, and just like, I'm doing very little thinking. I'm doing very little. It's not something that I'm figuring out. I'm just deeply present, so calm, so confident, and the creativity with them, whether we're playing or we're having what feels for them like a hard conversation where they're having to be really vulnerable, or I'm having to remember like my role as someone who like just wants them to be the fullest version of themselves, there's no barrier between like what needs to be said and what gets said, or like how they need to be held, and how I hold them. And yeah, it's like most clear to me when I'm with them. And so like that's often like the visual that comes to mind, like when I'm in my peak auntie self.
I love that.
I am in self.
Nice.
I love that.
Mhm.
I love that. Yeah, I really appreciate what you said about like it doesn't have to be like the whole positivity, like being in highest self doesn't mean, you know,
It's all good.
that like kind of, yeah, it's not necessarily always good. And for me, I feel I've had to work through that. I've had to work through like that whole like optimism, like I've had to work through that. But I feel like when I can just be my whole self and just be completely honest about all the things, the good, the sad, you know, the rage, and just feel all of those things and be completely honest with myself and vulnerable, looking in a mirror. And you just can't lie to yourself, you know, just being completely vulnerable. And that is when I'm in my most highest self. And that's sometimes that's hard. I mean, that's hard. That's hard being completely honest and vulnerable. Because sometimes I can't even do that with my nibblings. Although I love, because I feel like I have to be the strong one for them. I have to, you know, and sometimes it's just when I'm by myself, when I'm alone, I can just be my highest self. And I know that I'm working on being my highest self in every space that I encounter. And it's a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong journey. But when you're in space with folks, you know, here, I feel like it's much easier to do that. Because I know we're all working on it.
Yes.
You know, we're all working on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what parts have you formed closer relationships with?
I can jump in on this one because I have a relationship with a couple, but the one that I want to like that I'm very close with is her name's Little G. So it's Baby G.
We love Baby G.
Yeah, it's Baby G. And I just love her deeply. She's a protector. She's just so precious to me. And she just reminds me about the need for us to play. Because I take myself very seriously, too seriously. And she's like, come on, like, let's go play. Let's go roller skate. And, you know, she has a lot of fear from trauma that we're working through. And I was even thinking about like the tattoos that come from like the idea of a tattoo around like just me holding her hand and like us like skating away into the sunset, you know, like I have that. We're very close. And she's not the loud one. She's there too. But she's the one that just reminds me when I need to come back. She reminds me of who we want to be, you know, and then I have to remind her that it's okay, we're grown. You don't have to be afraid. Like we did a lot of work, and it's okay. It's gonna be safe. We're safe. And so I really love her. She takes really good care of me, and I'm grateful for her. Really grateful for her. Yeah, Baby G.
G.
Yeah, I've been really reconnecting with my 5-year-old self a lot lately. And yeah, I was just really resonating with this idea of being in self can actually be extremely painful. Like when you are so committed to really tuning in to intuition, to what your ancestors are telling you, you look around and notice that often clearly the world we live in, but even the world that like you find yourself in, like in community and relationships and family systems, there's a lot of stuff that's not compatible, right, with that inner truth. And so, I feel like recently I've been in a really excruciating period around and just like appreciating this idea of like the work we do for ourselves with ourselves as like a practice and like almost like a discipline that then allows us to show up in relationship and be self-compassionate and also offer compassion. And I realized that for me, I'm doing that self-work like with myself and finding that I'm not skilled enough yet to always know how to integrate that in relating to other people, particularly folks who don't roll with like self-imparts. That's like not in their vocabulary. So I can't be like, so just so you know, in this moment, like this is what's happening. But yeah, there's this 5-year-old me that I'm feeling a lot of curiosity, a lot of self-compassion, and I'm just wanting to give that me like a lot of space in me, because it was a time in my life where a lot of things contracted around me getting my needs met, me feeling seen in my family. And it's like, I'm turning 50 this year. And this 5-year-old self is like, I'm not having it anymore. Like, no, no, no. Like your needs matter. You get to take up space, right? You're not the least important person at the table. All these like messages. And I don't know what to do with them because I've built this life, right? That where I'm not claiming all that stuff for myself in all the directions, and particularly in my relationships. So yeah, I just want to name that the labor, right? The labor of trying to be in self, but also even like listening and tuning into those parts. It's excruciating, and I'm really in it right now. And ooh, it is some hard work we do. So much easier to not do it, but you can't not, like, I can't not do it. Now that I know, I can't not know.
Wow. Baby G needs to come play with me.
Yes, please.
Really needs to come play
Come
with me.
take up some space over here with your roller skates.
Little Robin wants to be up in that too. Yeah, I appreciate both of you sharing. I think what's coming up for me is I think what I've realized over the last several months is that my meta part is disappointment. And underneath that is just hurt and maybe a longing for what could be if conditions were different, and I kind of had a long journey with coming to grips with the fact that a lot of angst in my life comes from me wanting the best for myself and also wanting the best for those around me, and also coming into an awareness of understanding with my beloved's lived experience and how that shows up in their life and also how it shows up in relationship with me. And just trying to kind of move into acceptance while still being in full expression of self, of my needs, of, whatever I might need to do differently. My safety shape might need to be changing in real time, and seeing how the relationship kind of evolves over time. So I'm still kind of working through, like wading through that journey, because I know it's me maybe holding on to things that may not be possible, but I also don't necessarily want to give up on what is possible. It may just look different than what I've manifested it to be. So yeah, it's kind of like a beautiful discovery, but it can be very painful at times as well. So we're talking about folks that I've known since birth, and have loved for almost 46 years of this life and this existence, and that love me. And how do we kind of move and groove in that space together, especially as I keep discovering too more of myself, and what does that mean to be in self, to be in purpose, and to do that with them. Yeah.
Yeah, our parts really should meet up sometime. I'm listening to you all. I'm like, oh yeah, I have somebody to hang out. Yeah, I was really with you with your part, Hillary, when you were describing like the insistence of this 5-year-old part, right? As the thing that was coming up for me is that I think the part that I'm in deepest relationship with right now is is the part of me that's so focused on making sure that I belong, that I belong to whatever space I'm in, my family, my relationship, my workspace. And, that part is super young, and was really, it was born out of a fear of not belonging, right? But I think I've been in deeper relationship with this part recently, because it's also like the clearest political part of myself, right? Like that part is so that part grew out of something that like baby T knew, which is that we need each other, and it's not like a desire or a feeling. Like it's an actual fact that that we already do belong to each other, and we have to move that way, right? And so I mean, she is kicked up like the past year especially. She's looking around and is witnessing all of the ways that we're operating as a American family, as a global family, as a interspecial family. Like we are like deeply operating in ways that that pretend as though we don't belong to each other. And so one of the ways that I'm tending to that part is by being like, yo, you be knowing, like you sometimes like you act wild, but it's because like you know so clearly and so deeply what's true. And yeah, just acknowledging and loving her wisdom, and how much she helps me when she kicks up. Like, I know I'm seeing something in my personal life or in our political operating that signals that we're moving in ways that sort of go counter this like deep knowing that we belong to each other. And so, yeah, just appreciating both, like, yeah, it's hard, right? Because like, there's a lot of reactivity, and there's like deep wisdom there from those young parts. So trying to hold both.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm like heart eyes emoji right now. It's like, I love all of you so much.
Wow. This was medicine.
Yes, it really was.
This was a gift. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciation.
Yeah.
I just met Gina this morning.
No, just today.
Scene.
Mhm.